don't know if any of you know this, but when I was like in my teenage years, I got the nickname Bean. And it's kind of easy to figure out. It's like my last name's VanderBaan, and then it's like VanderBeen, and then it just dropped off to Bean. And I know it's hard for some people to imagine this, but I've not always been the physical specimen that I am now. There was a time in my life that I was not. That, in fact, when I was like 13 years old, I was 5'4", and short for my age. And starting in that point in time, my feet grew very, very fast. So I had size 13 feet and 5'4" body. Just imagine, right? Yeah, they're still 13. Nothing's changed there on the bottom end, right? And then I grew really, really fast. And so it took me some time to, kind of just imagine a baby giraffe. And that was my life. This is true, I had a size 27 waist, and I had a 36-inch inseam. You can't even find those kind of clothes, right? And I was also, in addition to being somewhat physically challenged, I was also somewhat socially challenged. I was acutely shy, which some people find hard to believe because I sit in front and talk to people, and some people that's like the worst nightmare. Acutely shy, and I didn't like it. I didn't like being a shy person, and I didn't like me because I didn't like being shy. And these liabilities presented certain obstacles to a young man trying to find his way through the hallowed halls of Christian Junior High School. There were three things in my life at that point in time that were really, really important to me. The first one was girls. The second one was basketball. The girls didn't really think a lot of me, and I couldn't make the basketball team, so I was down 2 strikes already. The third was water skiing. I grew up water skiing, and I was actually pretty good at that. I was at a point in time where I could ski better than I could walk. But despite my size 13 feet, I couldn't barefoot. And I really, really wanted to barefoot. So even what I was good at, I felt like I was a failure at. And some of this may or may not sound funny now, but to a 13-year-old kid in 1976, I assure you, it was decidedly unfunny. Right? There was nothing funny about it. And then there was people like Jace Jenkins and John Gaskins and Cliff Coffey. I mean, the names themselves, right, are intimidating. And these guys had hair on their chest in places where I didn't know hair grew. And they had spoken in octaves that I didn't know existed. And they were the quarterback of the football team, and they captained the basketball team. And they won the affections of all of the girls that I thought should pay a little bit of attention to me. So I learned early in my life that cheaters sometimes do win, despite what they said, and sometimes the wicked, like the bad people in the world, prosper when the good people do not. I could lament it, my plot and my plight in life. I could lament it with the rawness of the psalmist. The Psalms, that's where we're going to end up today. We're going to end up in the Bible. We're going to end up talking about wicked people prospering and the challenges and struggles of that. But didn't Jesus tell us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us? Right? That's what Jesus said. In fact, before Jesus ever walked the earth, God gave the Jews, including in that the author of the Psalms, the same instructions that Jesus gave to us. We have this beautiful psalm, Psalm 23, says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside quiet waters, right? This lovely, beautiful psalm of the serene picture. And then it's abruptly interrupted with these words, things like, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me. Where? In the presence of my enemies. Right? How does that get into this lovely, beautiful psalm? Or the psalm in 139. You've created my inmost being. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, God. If only you would slay the wicked, right? Take care of the bad people in the world. God, it's not fair. Anybody ever feel like life's not fair? Anybody sitting here today with some version of that in your own life? If you have the notes that you picked up, you could have picked up on the way in this morning, there's a spot. I would like, just take a minute. If you don't have, just take it. Where in your life right now can you identify with this sense, this feeling that somehow things are not the way they're supposed to be for me? Things are not the way they're supposed to be for me. And it certainly looks like the grass is greener on their side of the fence. I think of like woeful things that go far deeper than childhood trauma that I experienced. A woman longing to be a mother who watches her neighbor's teenage niece get her second abortion. God, it's not fair. The friend who lost his wife, his mother, and a child in a car collision to a drunk driver who walked free because the prosecutor had an airtight case but didn't put the drunk driver in the seat of the car. People who work hard and earn an honest living and lose everything, while unscrupulous tycoons get bailed out. The guilty, like the truly guilty, have the presumption of innocence, and that victims bear the burden of proof. People who are confronted by torture, rape, murder, refugees flee for safer havens, where they're greeted by those who are ill-equipped or unwilling to receive them. And they fight amongst themselves while the tormentors continue the reign of terror. Some things in life just aren't fair. And Psalm 73 gives words to the offense. It doesn't make it say, it gives us a script for ourselves. Good things, the psalmist says, good things are happening to bad people. I envisioned the proud when I saw the prosperous despite their wickedness. They seem to live such painless lives. Their bodies are so healthy and strong. They don't have troubles like other people. They are not plagued with problems like everyone else. They wear pride like a necklace and clothe themselves with cruelty. These fat cats have everything their hearts could ever wish for. They scoff and speak only evil. In their pride, they seek to crush others. They boast against the very heavens and strut around like the kings and queens of the earth, stealing kids' lunches, putting kick me on their back, knocking the books out of their hands. Their reward, they get all the girls. They make the basketball team. They may not barefoot water ski, but it certainly sometimes seems like they just walk on water. It's not fair. Good things are happening, God, to bad people. And this is worse than that. And bad things are happening to me. Verse 14, I get nothing but trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. It's hard. And when I try to understand this, when I try to make sense out of it, the atrocity of it just drags me down farther. It makes it harder. The more I think about it, the worse it gets. The more frustrated I become, the more angry I become. And what's not fair digresses into, hey, just not some bad things are happening in the world. But who's not fair? Why isn't it fair? People, verse 10, are dismayed and confused, drinking in all the words of the proud people who are prospering. What does God know? Does he even see what's happening in the world? Does he even understand? Does he realize what's happening here? Is he paying attention? God, are you still on the throne? Look at these wicked people enjoying a life of ease while their riches multiply. Did I keep my heart pure for nothing? Did I keep myself innocent for no reason? Honestly, God, if this is how you treat your friends, who needs enemies? I almost lost my footing. My feet were slipping and I was almost gone. You don't have to look too far to find injustices in the world. Injustices in our community, injustices in our own lives that can challenge faith to its very core. The psalmist is in a bad space and he's in a slippery slope and he's sliding down and he's almost lost it. Verse 17, then I went into your sanctuary and I finally understood. The psalmist has lost his footing. He's sliding away. And worship is the turning point. Or probably more accurately, worship is the returning point. The worship is where he finds himself. Worship is where he comes back. Psalmist doesn't tell us what happened in the sanctuary. Maybe he had a vision from heaven, heard a voice, a life-changing encounter invoked by the words of one of the prophets, a rich time of worship at one of the annual festivals. Some way, someday, he entered into the sanctuary, into the presence, into the place where God was, in the place where he belonged. And it changed his perspective on everything. He doesn't tell us what happened, but he does tell us where it happened. It happened in your sanctuary. And then I understood. People say things to me like this all the time, in small ways, not in dramatic ways, but in small ways. I was at my wit's end. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know which way to turn. And I cried out to God. Something like this. I didn't want to come today. I didn't want to come to church. I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to come today. But I'm glad I did. This is where I needed to be. Worship. Worship is a corrective lens for our worldview. Every day of the week, we're flooded with all kinds of messages about what the world is like and what the world is about, and about ourselves and about other people and about how things work and about how things don't work, flooded with all this information that challenges this reality of a God who exists and a God who reigns and a God who is present in our lives and a God who is active in the world. All of this is shouting at us otherwise. And worship brings us back into the presence. And in that place, the psalmist says, I finally understood what was happening. I finally understood the reality of the plight of wicked people, the destiny of the wicked. Truly, you put them on a slippery path and send them sliding over the cliff to destruction. Now it's the wicked who are sliding, who have lost their footing. In an instant, they are destroyed, completely swept away by terrors. Now, the Psalms write poetry. And I think it's easy to read a passage like this and think, well, wow, that God's pretty mean stuff, that he would just like, I got you now. You're going down the slope, sliding off to hell. God created a world where things work a certain way. And when we live outside of that way, he doesn't have to do anything to us. We've done it to ourselves. There's a way life works, and when we do not live in alignment with God's design for creation, Romans 1, right? Romans 1. He gave them over to their design. He let them have what it is that they wanted, what it is that they pursued, what it is that they were going after. He let them have it. He didn't have to give it to them. When you arise, O Lord, you laugh at their silly ideas as a person laughs at dreams in the morning. They're the ones on the slippery slope. If you evaluate at the end of the day, if you look at the world in a selfie that someone posts online, it's very easy to get a very skewed perspective of reality. But if you look at the end, after years, decades, a lifetime, a portfolio, you see a much different end to any given day. When I entered into your presence, when I came into your sanctuary, I saw what happens when life is lived outside of your design, outside of your place, outside of your perspective. I saw it for what it was. Then I understood the plight, that destiny. Then I understood the truth about my problem. I realized my heart was bitter and I was all torn up inside. I was so foolish and ignorant. I must have seemed like a senseless animal to you. The slippery slope of the offended self sees what's wrong and may have every right to be mad about it. Right? Good things are happening to bad people. Bad things are happening to good people. It's unjust. It's not right. Every right to be angry about it. Wanting justice. Wanting it now. And the result of that, what comes out of that, the offended self, looking around at the world and wanting to make everything right and according to our own eyes, our perspective, ourselves, the way we want it to work, is a bitter heart and a foolish mind that leads to senseless actions, that leads to doing dumb stuff. It makes us angry. It makes us bitter. We're right. We can look at it and say, that's not the right thing. That's wrong. And still end up in a place that takes our joy, that steals our hearts, that fills us with bitterness. We're consumed by this stuff in our social media, in our news threads, and looking around and saying, oh, these terrible things that are happening in the world. And it's their problem, and it's his fault, and it's their fault, and it's that party, and it's his fault. Right? And we can become consumed by the bitterness and the anger and the fear and the frustration and comparisons that cry out for justice. It doesn't change anything but us from the inside out. came into your sanctuary, then I understood that doesn't work, but what I'm doing isn't working either. I worshiped, and I was reminded the big picture of the selfish life. I came into your presence, and I was reminded of the bitter fruit of a selfish response. I came into your presence, and I was reminded of the hope of heaven in a God-centered life and my utter reliance on your presence. When I came into the sanctuary, I finally understood that out there I feel alone, but in here I belong to you. You hold my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, leading me to a glorious destiny. Whom have I in heaven but you? I desire you more than anything on earth. My health may fail, my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. Those who desert him will perish, for you destroy those who abandon you. But as for me, how good it is to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my shelter, and I will tell everyone about the wonderful things you do. Everything changed. Everything turned on entering into the presence of God, coming into worship with him. Now, the last 2 weeks, again, we were traveling, gone 2 Sundays. Thank you, Steve, for filling in. I haven't heard the sermons yet, but I will listen to them, and I trust that you did fantastic. Yeah, amen. I can go in peace, thanks to that. 2 weeks, right? And on this particular trip, the way the days lined up, we were traveling on both Sundays. Now, I've never been the preacher who's like, I'm going to line up my vacations with places I could preach. That's just like, I know people who do that, and it just sounds like an absolute nightmare to me. And I'm not even like, I have to be in church on a Sunday morning when I'm on vacation, right? I'm not that guy. But I will tell you that 2 weeks out, right? 2 weeks, that turns to 2 months. If the trajectory of 2 weeks in my own faith journey turns to 2 months, it gets scary quickly. I was in here when the worship team was practicing this morning, they were sitting behind me, blasting into my ear one of the songs. And I entered into the sanctuary. The presence of God. And something came alive in my heart and in my spirit again that hadn't died, but it diminished. And it's not that I didn't have a quiet time. It's not that I didn't read my Bible or go out and pray. I wasn't in the community and the fellowship of the people of God, and something was diminishing. In the sanctuary of your presence, we see the world for what it is. We see you for who you are. We see others for who they are. We see ourselves for who we are. We find our place in the world, our perspective on reality. Everything turns for the psalmist, for my heart, for the human heart, because that's the way God designed us, in fellowship with him, in presence with him.